Hey, let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever walked into your kitchen and just stood there, staring at the fridge, completely blanking on what you went in there for? Or maybe you've snapped at your partner or kids over something tiny like, who left the lights on again? And then 5 minutes later, you're sitting there feeling this wave of guilt and exhaustion wash over you. Perhaps you wake up in the middle of the night, mind racing about work deadlines, bills, or that endless list of things you need to get done, even though you're completely drained. If any of this hits home, you're far from alone. Millions of Americans are walking around right now feeling mentally foggy, emotionally on edge, and just not quite like themselves. We brush it off as getting older, being busy, or normal life in 2026. But what if I told you that the constant, invisible stress you're carrying, the endless notifications, the pressure to perform at work, the financial worries, the comparison game on social media, the 24/7 news cycle is doing something far more serious than just making you feel tired? It's physically reshaping your brain, shrinking key parts of it, rewiring neural pathways in ways that make anxiety, forgetfulness, and emotional reactivity feel like your new normal. Today, we're going deep, really deep into the neuroscience of chronic stress and exactly how it's shrinking your brain right now. We'll explore the groundbreaking research from scientists like Bruce McEwen and the latest 2025 to 2026 studies showing structural changes in the hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and amygdala. You'll learn the early warning signs your brain is already sending you, often months or years before bigger problems show up. And most importantly, we'll talk about real, evidence-based ways you can start protecting and even partially reversing this damage, because your brain is remarkably resilient when given the right conditions. I promise this isn't just another generic, reduce stress video. We're backing everything with real science from sources like Harvard Health, the National Institutes of Health, and peer-reviewed journals. By the end of this, you'll have a clear understanding of what's happening inside your head and practical steps you can take starting today. So if you're watching this, do me a favor, grab a notebook or open your notes app, because what you're about to learn could genuinely change how you show up in your life. Stick with me all the way through, because the information in the second half on reversal strategies is where the real hope and power lies. Let's dive in. First, let's understand the basics of how stress works in your body and brain. When you encounter a challenge, whether it's a tight deadline or a car cutting you off in traffic, your brain activates something called the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This triggers the release of cortisol, your primary stress hormone. In short bursts, cortisol is actually helpful. It sharpens your focus, mobilizes energy, and prepares your body for action. This is the ancient fight-or-flight response that helped our ancestors survive real threats like predators. But here's the critical difference in modern life. Our ancestors dealt with acute stress, short, intense bursts, followed by recovery. Today, most of us live in a state of chronic, low-grade stress. Emails at all hours, financial pressures that never fully go away, social media that keeps us comparing our behind-the-scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, a constant stream of global crises in the news. For many Americans, this isn't occasional, it's daily. And according to decades of pioneering work by neuroscientist Bruce McEwen at Rockefeller University, this chronic stress doesn't just make you feel bad, it physically remodels the architecture of your brain. Let's start with the hippocampus. This is a seahorse-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe, crucial for forming new memories, learning new things, and helping regulate your emotions. It's one of the most vulnerable regions to chronic stress. Research going back to McEwen's landmark studies in the late 1960s, and reinforced by many papers since, including a 2017 review in Physiology and updates through 2025 shows that prolonged exposure to high cortisol causes the dendrites, those branch-like connections between neurons in the hippocampus, to shrink and retract. Over time, this leads to a measurable reduction in hippocampal volume. Think about that for a moment. Studies using MRI scans on people with high chronic stress levels have shown reductions in hippocampal volume of around 8 to 10% or more compared to low-stress individuals. One meta-analysis highlighted in recent neuroscience literature links this shrinkage directly to impaired memory formation and increased risk for mood disorders. It's not just senior moments. This is structural change happening in your brain right now if stress has been your constant companion. Why does this happen? Cortisol binds to glucocorticoid receptors densely packed in the hippocampus. In small amounts, this is fine, but chronic activation becomes toxic. It suppresses neurogenesis, the birth of new brain cells in the dentate gyrus of the hippocampus, and disrupts synaptic plasticity, the brain's ability to strengthen connections based on experience. A 2023 to 2025 body of research in journals like Molecular Psychiatry and Nature Reviews confirms that chronic stress impairs this process, making it harder for you to learn, remember, and emotionally recover from setbacks. At the same time, chronic stress is doing something very different in your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain right behind your forehead responsible for executive functions. This includes planning, decision-making, impulse control, working memory, and regulating emotions. Here, prolonged cortisol exposure also causes dendritic atrophy. The branches shrink, connections weaken. Recent 2025 studies on prefrontal cortex neuroplasticity show that chronic stress leads to reduced gray matter density and impaired connectivity. This explains why so many people report decision fatigue. You sit down to tackle your to-do list, but feel overwhelmed by even simple choices. You struggle to focus during meetings or while reading. Your ability to think clearly and creatively takes a hit. One study from Yale and others noted that people under chronic stress shift toward more habitual, less flexible thinking patterns because the prefrontal cortex's top-down control weakens. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the almond-shaped structure that acts as your brain's alarm system for fear and emotions, behaves in the opposite way. Chronic stress often makes it larger and more reactive. Research shows increased dendritic growth and heightened connectivity in the basolateral amygdala under prolonged stress. This means your fear center becomes hypersensitive. Small stressors feel like big threats. You might overreact to minor conflicts, feel sudden waves of anxiety about things that haven't even happened yet, or lie awake at night with racing thoughts. This creates a vicious neurological cycle. A weakened prefrontal cortex can't effectively regulate the overactive amygdala. The hippocampus struggles to provide context and memory-based perspective to calm things down. More stress hormones flood the system, causing more shrinkage and hyperactivity. It's like your brain has been rewired from a balanced, thoughtful operating system into a hypervigilant survival mode that rarely powers down. Real people are experiencing this every day. Take Sarah, a 38-year-old marketing manager in Chicago I heard from recently. She used to pride herself on her sharp memory and calm demeanor. After 2 years of high-pressure deadlines, remote work burnout, and family caregiving stress, she started forgetting important client details, snapping at her husband over small things, and feeling a constant low-level dread. Brain scans in similar cases often reveal exactly these patterns: smaller hippocampus, less active prefrontal areas, and an amplified amygdala response. So, what are the early warning signs that chronic stress is already physically affecting your brain? These are the signals most people miss or dismiss until they become more severe. Recognizing them early gives you the best chance to intervene. Warning sign number 1. Increasing memory lapses and brain fog. You forget why you opened an app on your phone. You can't recall names of people you've met recently. You reread the same paragraph 3 times because nothing sticks. This is often the hippocampus signaling distress. Studies link these lapses directly to reduced hippocampal volume and impaired neurogenesis. Warning sign number 2. Persistent difficulty with focus and concentration. You start tasks, but get distracted easily. Even short work sessions feel exhausting. Decision-making becomes draining, whether it's choosing what to eat for dinner or making bigger life choices. This points to prefrontal cortex changes. Research from 2025 shows chronic stress reduces the brain's working memory capacity. Warning sign number 3. Heightened emotional reactivity and irritability. You get angry or tearful more quickly than before. Anxiety spikes over things that used to roll off your back. This is the amygdala growing stronger and the prefrontal cortex losing its braking power. Many people describe feeling on edge all the time. Warning sign number 4. Disrupted sleep patterns that go beyond occasional bad nights. You fall asleep okay but wake up between 2 to 4 a.m. with your mind racing. Or you sleep long hours but still feel exhausted. Deep sleep is when the brain's lymphatic system clears waste and repairs stress damage. Chronic disruption accelerates the problems. Warning sign number 5. Loss of motivation, joy, and interest in activities you once loved. Hobbies feel pointless. Even spending time with friends takes more effort. This can overlap with depressive symptoms and is linked to disrupted dopamine pathways and hippocampal changes affecting reward processing. Warning sign number 6. Physical symptoms without clear medical cause. Frequent tension headaches, tight shoulders and neck, stomach issues, or getting sick more often. The brain-body connection means chronic stress weakens immune function and heightens inflammation. Warning sign number 7. A general sense of mental exhaustion or burnout that rest doesn't fully fix. You might feel cognitively slower, less creative, or like your emotional bandwidth is shrinking. If several of these resonate with you, it doesn't mean something is permanently broken. It means your brain is adapting to the environment you've been giving it, and it's incredibly capable of positive change through neuroplasticity. The beautiful truth backed by science is that many of these stress-induced changes are not irreversible. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, continues throughout life. While severe, long-term damage can be harder to fully reverse, significant improvement is possible with consistent, evidence-based actions. Let's talk about proven strategies in detail. The foundation is sleep. High-quality sleep is non-negotiable for brain recovery. During deep non-REM sleep, the glymphatic system becomes highly active, flushing out metabolic waste, including excess cortisol byproducts. Aim for 7 to 9 hours consistently. Create a wind-down routine. Dim lights. No screens an hour before bed. Keep your room cool and dark. Studies from Harvard and the National Institute on Aging show that consistent sleep schedules help restore hippocampal function and reduce amygdala hyperactivity over time. Next, regular physical movement. This might be the single most powerful tool available. Aerobic exercise like brisk walking, jogging, cycling, or swimming increases levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, often called miracle grow for the brain. BDNF promotes the growth of new neurons and strengthens existing connections, particularly in the hippocampus. Multiple randomized controlled trials show that 30 to 45 minutes of moderate exercise most days can increase hippocampal volume and improve prefrontal cortex function within weeks to months. Even strength training helps by reducing inflammation and balancing stress hormones. One landmark study found that exercise was more effective than some antidepressants at promoting neurogenesis in stressed individuals. Start where you are. A daily 20 to 30-minute walk in nature combines movement with another powerful recovery tool. Speaking of nature, spending time outdoors has measurable brain benefits. Research on attention restoration theory and forest bathing shows that time in green spaces reduces cortisol, lowers amygdala activity, and improves prefrontal cortex performance. Aim for at least 2 to 3 hours per week if possible. Mindfulness and meditation practices also have strong evidence. An 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program, studied extensively at Harvard and elsewhere, was shown to increase gray matter density in the hippocampus while decreasing it in the amygdala. You don't need to meditate for hours. Start with 10 minutes a day using guided breathing. The physiological sigh, 2 quick inhales through the nose followed by a long exhale, can downregulate your nervous system in under a minute. Breathing techniques, progressive muscle relaxation, and yoga combine movement and breath work to lower cortisol and build resilience. Consistency matters more than intensity. Even short daily practices compound over time. Social connection is another underrated protector. Strong, positive relationships buffer stress effects on the brain. They provide emotional regulation support and stimulate positive neurochemical release. Make time for real conversations, not just texts. Join a group, club, or community aligned with your interests. What you consume matters too. Reduce excessive caffeine after early afternoon, as it can prolong cortisol elevation. Limit alcohol, which disrupts sleep architecture and worsens brain inflammation. Be intentional with news and social media intake. Set time limits to avoid constant activation of your threat system. Nutrition supports brain recovery as well. Focus on anti-inflammatory foods. Fatty fish rich in omega-3 salads, which support membrane health and reduce inflammation. Berries, leafy greens, nuts, and olive oil. These provide antioxidants and nutrients that combat the oxidative stress caused by chronic cortisol. Stay hydrated. Dehydration worsens brain fog dramatically. Learning new skills or engaging in mentally stimulating activities builds cognitive reserve. Whether it's playing an instrument, learning a language, or taking up a creative hobby, these challenge your brain in positive ways and promote neuroplasticity across regions. If symptoms are severe, persistent anxiety, depression, cognitive issues, significantly impacting work or relationships, don't hesitate to seek professional help. Therapy approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, have excellent evidence for rewiring stress responses. In some cases, short-term medication under medical supervision can help stabilize things while lifestyle changes take effect. There's no shame in getting support. It's one of the smartest things you can do. Remember, recovery isn't linear. Some days will feel better than others. The key is small, consistent actions over time. Your brain isn't broken, it's been adapting to survive in a demanding environment. By changing inputs, better sleep, movement, mindfulness, connection, you give it new conditions to thrive in. I want to share one more encouraging insight from the research. Studies on resilience show that even people who experience prolonged stress can show significant brain recovery when they implement changes. The same mechanisms that allow damage plasticity allow repair. It might take weeks or months to notice big shifts, but they happen. If this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Which warning sign have you noticed most strongly in your own life? What's one small step you're committing to try this week? Your story might encourage someone else who's feeling the same way. If you found value here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. We're turning this into a full series. In upcoming videos, we'll dive deeper into lowering cortisol naturally, rebuilding unbreakable focus, the power of specific exercises for brain health, and a complete 30-day brain protection plan with daily actionable steps. Your brain is one of the most precious things you have. It shapes every experience, every relationship, every achievement. Protecting it isn't selfish, it's essential. You've already taken the first step by watching this far. Start implementing even 1 or 2 ideas today, and you'll be giving your future self an incredible gift. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Take care of your mind, and I'll see you in the next video. You've got this.